Welcome in to the Paul Kuharsky podcast. I am Paul Kuharsky at paulkuharsky.com. Like to say my name 3 times at the beginning. It gets us all fired up and in the mood. Good to see you. Trey Wynn is first in the lobby over here. Good to see you. Lots to talk about as the Titans head into their third to final week. We've got 2 more chances to win a home game here. Not very likely. Not very likely they win another one. They're so depleted at safety. It's going to be hard not to be picked apart in the back end. Want to warm you up for the big game tonight, Thursday night. Nice draw. Huge game in the NFC with Seattle and the Rams. Put me down as a Seahawks believer. I think they'll win tonight. Whether they win tonight or not, they have become my revised pick to win the Super Bowl. I like what they're doing a lot. I think they'll be an excellent playoff entry. Good to see all of you. What we're going to talk about here, Chiefs, obviously, this has been a big storyline. First game without playoff implications. Well, I mean, they've had the division clinched and top seed clinched before, but the first game without any playoff future for them in a long, long time. Could the Titans want this one more when the 2 teams take the field at Nissan Stadium on Sunday? Cam Ward talked about wanting to be involved in the selection of the new coach. Got some backlash for that, I think unwarranted. We'll talk about that. I've got 5 really good minutes with Peter Skoronski talking about the 2-game transformation of the offensive line. What spurred it? What does it mean? Will it continue? I like talking to Peter. He got my vote for the Titans Good Guy Award, which will come out in the next week or 2 for being the best guy to deal with for the media in town. I think it's an educational 5 minutes. We'll talk about that. Jaylen Harrell's opportunity. He's had some good snaps in the last couple of weeks, snaps he wouldn't have gotten if things weren't going to shit for the Titans this year. So a little bit of a silver linings guy. All of your questions, obviously, we talk about Edley's Barbecue, my great sponsor. Sad not to be there right now, smelling the food and getting ready for dinner there, which I love. I'll give you some picks after a shitty week last week, for which I am embarrassed and apologize. And we'll take it from there. Of course, all of your questions I look forward to. Lee Jordan. Lee, you sent me a column idea. I think what you asked me to write about, kind of the undoing of Brian Callahan's already been covered and discussed pretty thoroughly. Trey is making cheeseburger soup for dinner, and he's making me hungry by talking about his cheeseburger soup. I may be having some soup for dinner myself. Welcome in. Good to see all of you. I appreciate your presence. This idea of the Chiefs coming in like super, super flat because they're out of the playoff race. I think they obviously are a team that's, got no incentive for the first time in a long, long time. More importantly than that, Patrick Mahomes isn't playing quarterback after tearing his ACL. But Gardner Minshew's had success against the Titans. I tweeted out today. He's led his teams to a 4-2 record against the Titans, 8 touchdowns against 2 interceptions. So it's not as if he hasn't won, and it's not as if the Chiefs, who are not a talented version of the Chiefs this year, but they're more talented than the Titans. You could say that about virtually anybody this year. So I don't think they're going to sleepwalk in here and lay down the way a lot of people are imagining. And the Titans have lost to teams that are capable of losing to, a sleepwalking Chiefs team by far. They haven't won a game at home all season. They'll have an opportunity here. And then again next week, before finishing on the road against the Jaguars. God, I'm blanking out on who next week is. The schedule's all blurred together. They're still terrible. They're playing better, but they're an awfully bad team. But the Titans have such problems in the secondary right now. Saints next week are a beatable team, but the Saints are playing substantially better than they were a month ago when we thought they'd be right in the thick of it for the number 1 pick, and that a Titans-Saint game might be a game for the number 1 pick with the loser coming out on top. I think the Saints are clear of being a contender for that now, having played some better football, while the Titans are still, if not in contention for number 1, in contention for number 2, with the Giants and the Raiders having a head-to-head game that will give one of them an additional loss, pull them even with the Titans if the Titans don't win again. We'll see. The Titans could win here against the Chiefs. Titans could win against the Saints. I wouldn't call it probable. Titans could win against the Jags if the Jags have things sealed up for their finale at Jacksonville in Week 18. We don't know what that situation is going to be. Obviously, though, the AFC South and wild card slotting could still be up in the air for the Jaguars going into that last weekend, and it could mean something. Caden points out they need Draymond Jones to get another half sack, and obviously Baltimore to qualify for the playoffs. Baltimore and the Steelers still sorting things out in the AFC North, and big game for the Ravens this weekend against New England, with the Patriots having fallen back to earth a little bit with a come from ahead loss to Buffalo. Did the Titans kick the tires on Sam Darnold? There was not an interest from the Titans in Sam Darnold. Their plan was to draft a young quarterback pretty early. There were some permutations of the free agent market, maybe with Carr. A lot of there were going to be a lot of free agents in the quarterback market, and then it settled down really quickly. But listen, what was going to entice Sam Darnold to come here? This has gotten kind of overblown after the fact. If Sam Darnold had been a free agent when Brian Callahan got here initially, and you said, all right, well, I'm going to join a bad team with a new coach and come and be his guy and help things turn around, that might have been one thing. But to come with a coach who was very much in a lame duck situation, with things not having gone well, whose job security was in question after his first season, that's not a place a veteran quarterback coming off success is going to want to go. And it would have been messy, obviously, for him here. Nick Suss did a good report for the Tennessean about Darnold's choices before the Titans-Seahawks game, where he talked about how, Darnold here would have been kind of a 7, 8, 9 win quarterback that would have put the Titans like firmly in the middle, which I agree with, and not help them get over the hump to be a big time winning team, and not kept them bad where they would have gotten the kind of high level draft help that you get from being a bad team, and that they, were uncomfortable with that idea, which I understand. But also, I think the bigger thing is Sam Darnold, and I know somebody's out there saying they knew he was interested. An agent will tell you a free agent quarterback is interested in every single opportunity to maximize what a quarterback or any player can get out of the market. you have to have both sides truly interested in order for anything to come together. And Sam Darnold wouldn't be having the success he's having in Seattle had he come to Nashville. Mutual interest is what Rexrod said about Darnold. I didn't hear the context in which Rexrod said it, and obviously I believe Rexrod's reporting. But I think he obviously found a much better situation. I don't think there was mutual interest. I don't think the Titans were interested. Very quickly, they were not interested. I know that for a fact. So I have a counter report to Rexrod's report, and I think Rexrod's a phenomenal reporter, but he is not plugged in to the Titans on the front row anymore. Is the Titans coaching job still undesirable now that the smoke has settled with Callahan? Well, why would the level of smoke with Callahan determine the desirability, the undesirability of the Titans job? I think I've said in the past, like when Callahan was being hired and people were saying it's an undesirable job, that's wrong. I think it's a less desirable job than it was last time around because Amy Adams Strunk has tainted it. And Amy Adams Strunk has tainted the organization with the frequency of her firings. John Robinson got fired after a bad downturn, but at a bad time of the season. There's no reason to fire him during it. She could have fired him after it. She fired Mike Vrabel unnecessarily, who's rebounded very well and who everybody knew was a good coach. She hired Rand Carthon, who was a bad hire. I think a lot of us had insight into that being a bad hire when the time happened, when it happened, but weren't at liberty to say what we knew because the people who were telling us that he wasn't ready and wouldn't be good at the job wouldn't say it in a way that we could use it. But then after his 2-year fiasco, plenty of people were willing to tell us, certainly told me about things that illustrated how bad he was at the job. That was a terrible hire. Brian Callahan wasn't a terrible hire, but he turned out to be terrible at the job. And so she fired those two guys in 2 years or less. And so the job safety here is bad. Potential head coaches are going to go and go and ask Mike Vrabel, and they're going to go and ask Brian Callahan about what Amy's like and what this job is like, and they're not going to say good things about it. So that's going to hurt the job. That said, virtually every job that's going to come open in this market has a degree of dysfunction attached to it. The Giants job has dysfunction attached to it, and the spotlight of New York. The Cleveland job, if Stefanski gets fired, has a dysfunctional owner and you've still got the burden of Deshaun Watson attached to it. Arizona's ownership is notoriously bad if Gannon gets fired there. I'm accepting, like, if somehow Pittsburgh decides for a mutual parting with Mike Tomlin, that'd be a terrific job. If Baltimore somehow makes a move with Harbaugh, which I don't see coming, that's a terrific job. But most of the teams, Las Vegas is a terrible job. It's an absolute mess there. Ownership doesn't know what it's doing. Brady's got his finger in the pie there. It's not going well at all. Is that job better or worse than the Titans job? I mean, I think you can go either way there. But to suggest that the Titans job is somehow like the worst of the worst, if Aaron Glenn gets fired after a year, which sounds like it's not impossible, that's a better job than this job. If Atlanta comes open, I mean, Arthur Blank is a good owner, but that team hasn't found a quarterback in some time. It will have gone through a few coaches in short order. It's a better job, but that's an organization that's had a lot of trouble figuring it out. Fontenot, if he doesn't get fired, is not a very good executive. All of these jobs have issues with them, and virtually all of them will be coming free because there are issues with them. Amy Adams Strunk chooses to meddle at odd times on weird issues, and it's a pain, but she can be held at bay. Mike Mularkey held her at bay. Mike Vrabel generally held her at bay. And again, people make it like the Titans have been bad for an incredibly long period of time and can never be good. 5 years ago, they were the number one seed in the AFC. So I don't think it's incredible. There's no tank going on. If there was a tank going on, they wouldn't have won in Cleveland. So the tank must be trusted. The tank's not happening. Players on the field, coaches coaching them are trying to win. Now, they may not win, and they're probably not going to win. I mean, if we look at their current depth chart, hold on one second. Should have had this handy here. If we look at their current depth chart in the defensive backfield, it's hard to win an NFL game with what they're fielding after, they put Xavier Woods and Mike Brown and Winston on IR. I mean, it's hard for a bad team, better yet a good team, to survive putting three guys who have started at safety for you. They list Amani Hooker and Kendall Brooks. Sanusi Kane, who got here on Monday or Tuesday, and Jarek Reed are listed as the backup safeties. Jalen Armour Davis is still listed as a starting cornerback. He's been out for a while. Kyer Elam is terrible as a top four corner. Micah Robinson, I don't think has seen a snap there yet. I mean, that is a disaster area. If Stefanski gets fired, do I think he would even consider going to the Titans if offered? If he wants to avoid going from the dysfunction of the Browns to the dysfunction of the Titans. Again, I'll say that the dysfunction level of the Browns is, to me, on a different level. I mean, the Titans have not dealt with anything like the financial burden of Deshaun Watson. And that's not the only thing that's been wrong up there. But Amy Adams Strunk meddles at moments, right? Haslam is all in there. They had a baseball analytics guy dictating the direction of the franchise for the better part of, is it 10 years, D. Podesta? Now, he's finally out. But the direction of that franchise was, they were trying to be pioneering with that. And I think it really was working against the tide of a good head coaching. I think that Kevin Stefanski, if he got to come and work with Borgonzi, would be relieved. I think Kevin Stefanski's a good head coach. Now, I know it's a hard sell to bring a guy here and say, here's a guy that in a terrible season where we won 2 games is one of the 2 guys we beat, would be very hard. Yeah, winning would put an end to the dysfunction, but you have to overcome some things to be non-dysfunctional, if you will. Russ says, starting to wonder if most teams in the NFL are just not good because of their ownership. Most billionaires do not know much about running a football organization. Well, smart billionaires put people in place and get out of the way. Steve Biscotti is not in the way, right? And the Ravens have a good deal of success. When Kraft started to get in the way, things started to get shitty in New England. Then he found somebody good again, and he's backed off, and things are trending in a good direction again. The Rooney family is notorious for hiring coaches and leaving them alone and letting them do their thing. And the Steelers are notorious for making the playoffs. Now, they've been falling short of doing things in the playoffs for too long, and the city is tired of that. Do I think that they will do any external interviews before the last day after the Week 18 game? Get a head start on McCarthy and Freeman. I suspect not. Let's let's head into the offensive line turnaround. The Titans. So when I talked to Skoronski after the Cleveland game, I was kind of like, where the hell did this come from? And he was like, we were really pissed off by the Jacksonville game. Jacksonville game is when I asked him, convince me that this team gives a shit. And, he gave a very good answer about believing that the team gave a shit and that he certainly gave a shit, which I believe he does. But in the background, Arden Key was cackling and everybody was pointing that out when I posted that video. And then after they won in Cleveland, he was like, I think this was pretty good representation that we give a shit. He kind of looked at me like in regards to your question of last week. So I had 4.5 minutes with him this week where I kind of picked up on that, because to me, he wasn't the only one that talked about how pissed off they were after that Jacksonville game, how focused they were in the preparations for Cleveland, in terms of slowing Myles Garrett and in being hell-bent on running. Now, I don't know why this moment couldn't have come for them earlier in the season to say, hey, we're going to find a way to run it at all costs. And all 5 of us are going to be determined. And this is the week. We're doing it this week, boys, that kind of thing. But I had a chance to talk to him about that, about the idea of fortifying it, about the idea of doing it for 3 more games, carrying an identity into the offseason, giving the new coach something to hang his hat on coming in, and this idea that, maybe all this change that we're talking about, Zeitler looks like somebody they wouldn't want to re-sign. Cushenberry looks like somebody they would like to release and move on from. But they finally have some continuity, even though Udo just started a game and Levin had started a couple of games. Some continuity there that maybe if they finish strong, you'd have to think about being a factor for them going forward. So here's Peter Skoronski.
Yeah, honestly, I think I do. I think collectively, I'm not putting anyone on the bus. I think as a whole, we walked away and said, hey, that was not good. As far as an offense, we kept going 3 and out, and we scored 3 points that game. So I think we all kind of walked away pissed off from our staff to all the players. So it wasn't good enough. I think great offenses always run the ball efficiently, and so I think that's where you started. That's where we started, and we wanted to do that well. And I think from there, I felt like we really just committed to that, and I think that's where that sort of the efficiency has grown offensively from that.
I know you'll take it when you can get it. Obviously, you should have found a moment like that somewhere earlier. It's easy to say.
Of course, yeah. I would have loved every play to be a run. So it's always going to be something I'm like, hey, let's run it. But yeah, obviously it would have been great to have that kind of efficiency earlier. Obviously I can't speak to every, all the issues at play, but yeah, I don't disagree. But
you do think there was a kind of a collective anger that had been building that kind of tipped with the Jacksonville game?
I do think that sort of, it was also one of our 6th or 7th loss in a row. I think we were all frustrated. And, scoring 3 points, I think will kind of bring that out of you, in terms of hey, nothing's really working. We've got to be able to rely on the ground game and build off of that. And so I think that was a little bit of the catalyst too.
There's been some talk from some outsiders, I think, including Ben Jones, who knows some stuff and will watch as you guys carefully, that maybe things have been simplified on the offensive line. Have you guys?
Yeah, I'd say maybe a little bit. Nothing like dumbed down, I don't think, but maybe just a little bit simpler, a little bit smaller. Part of that's, losing Bill, just not having another guy here. It's just a manpower thing. I think that's part of it, in terms of how much those guys can do, and there's a lot on their plate. So that was part of it, but also just have us thinking clearly. It's been, it was up and down. It's been a down year for us, so I think it's just hey, let's do what we try to do, what we do well, and stick with that, and then just go with that. And I think, it started to work for us. So
I wanted it to be fast. I guess everybody wanted it to be fast, but inevitably, some of these things, especially offensive line, with new people, take time.
No doubt.
Maybe longer than you want.
No doubt. Yeah. It's not one of those things that I think. you just like, or you get a group of like 5 guys who all look good on paper and like, all right, go play, and they're really good. I think there's so much that has to go into that. It's got to fit within the offense, which I think we're starting to find. I think the players have to gel together in terms of their communication, and and also like just being honest, the skill players got to do their thing and make us right sometimes, because that's the nature of the game. So yeah, it's definitely frustrating that it wasn't sooner, that we didn't find this rhythm sooner, but it was never going to be right away. Oh, well, holy cow, they're really good. Like, I don't think that's ever realistic.
Do you think they need to be conscious of that as they're looking to next year and how much change they make?
I mean, I think there's, like I said, like there's a holistic picture to everything, and I think that it's not just like always necessarily, hey, just bring in like 5 really good guys and it'll be good. I think there's just a lot that goes into it, and I think just from our standpoint is just doing our part to be as cohesive as possible and do the best job we can, and then let the pieces fall around us.
New coach coming, so I mean, if you guys continue to do this for another 3 games,
yeah,
even if they keep most of it together, still big change coming. Is that cause a little consternation?
I think something Mike's talked to us about is just like, even though eliminated and not having a great year, it's like you still can always build an identity and establish an identity. And so I think wanting to continue that production in the run game is big for us, so we can leave the season and say, hey, this team ran the ball well, they moved the ball well, they could, Tony Pollard maybe got over 1,000 yards. If we can come out of that season saying that, that's still the identity of this organization, no matter who comes in. And they'll have to come in and say, hey, this is something we did well last year with the similar personnel. That's something they can build off of. So you want to have someone that you can just hang your hat on, build off of, and go from there.
Always appreciate it.
Peter Skoronski on current events with the offensive line. Trey says he's so likable as a player, shows up and shuts up and plays. Shuts up, but I mean, I think he's the best talker on the team, as I said coming in. Bill Callahan had a year and a half, and they got worse progressively. I don't know if they got worse progressively. They did not get better. That is the problem. D. Knight says, if Bill Callahan had stayed, the line still would have improved. I do agree with that. I mean, these disciples, the 2 assistant coaches who replaced Bill Callahan, are teaching Bill Callahan stuff. There's been no dramatic change. I mean, I talked to one of them, Scott Fuchs, today, who said there's some simplification that's gone on. Skoronski said there's some simplification that's gone on. Ben Jones, who now has turned himself into a radio personality, again, I think on there with Buck, exaggerating and making it sound like it's been totally streamlined. I've got huge problem with Ben Jones, who said nothing of interest when he was a player, and now says shock value, interesting things that don't measure up to what trustworthy people with the team are saying. And I'm not going to go back to his big one. Again, more stuff about Callahan here. Many teams in the NFL aren't good because there aren't enough good coaches, quarterbacks, and O-lines to go around. That is true to a degree. There certainly aren't enough good quarterbacks. There certainly aren't enough good offensive linemen, though I think you can put together an offense with good enough offensive linemen. I do think there are good enough coaches. I think teams don't hire well enough. Now, are there 32 good enough head coaches at any given time? No. And I think conceivably there are 32 good enough head coaches in the world. Yes. I don't think the league is smart enough to hire them all concurrently. No. And I don't think that's, I mean, I think that's like any business which has 32 entries. They're going to be great ones, good ones, average ones, bad ones, and terrible ones. And NFL is representative of that. But the quarterback thing is really the biggest issue. You've got to have uh, at least a good quarterback to have a chance to compete. And, if you have a good quarterback, you probably need a great coach or, offensive play caller or quarterback coach to go with him in order to maximize him. And you got to put that puzzle together in some reasonable way where you can maximize success. This team was unable to do it last year and has been unable to do it this year. And that's why this coaching hire is a monumental feat ahead. And speaking of that coach that's coming, I asked Cam Ward yesterday about a question that got the whole thing started. I said, no, you've got a couple games left here, but the time when you're going to meet this new head coach isn't that far off. Are you somewhat anxious to know who he's going to be and all of that? And then we asked a couple collective follow-up questions. And the most interesting thing he said was that, he wants to meet them all. He's talked to Brinker and Borgonzi about that. He's hopeful that he will. This, of course, from blowhards turned into the idea that Cam Ward thinks he's got the right to interview all of the head coaches, expects to be of monumental influence in the hiring and all of that. These people clearly haven't interviewed for many jobs or have not had any kind of role where they've had any significance when somebody's getting hired, or they've not done any hiring or anything like that. Look, it makes complete sense that the new head coach, the guys who are finalists at least, are going to talk to Cam Ward. Now, Brinker and Borgonzi and Amy, unfortunately, are going to take the head coach's feedback on Ward way more than they're going to take Ward's feedback on the head coach. But yeah, look at a little bit. Hey, how'd you feel about him? What was the dialogue like? How do you think you guys will jive? Now, that's not going to be the determining factor on whether the guy gets the job. And guess what? All of them are going to get along swimmingly with Cam Ward. And Cam Ward is probably going to get along swimmingly with all of them. Now, maybe he'll say, hey, out of those three guys, I really felt best about guy B. And maybe that, is a slight factor there. But they're hiring a guy who, between he and his staff, they think can maximize everything they have, including and especially Cam Ward. But he's not got some golden touch where he's going to determine who they hire. Mike Borgonzi, first and foremost, please God, is going to be saying this guy can do things offensively here with what we have and with what we're going to get. And he's the right guy for us and for Ward or for whoever we wind up having at quarterback down the road. And there's absolutely nothing wrong. Any team in the league with a second-year number one pick quarterback would be having some level of interaction between that quarterback and their candidates. If he's in the building, they'd have lunch. If he's not in the building, they would have a Zoom. It's common sense, and it's part of the way things work. The people saying, well, he's got to play good quarterback before he's allowed to talk to the guy, or what an ego on this guy that he thinks he should have. It's just like there's a certain cluelessness there about how things work. Like a guy coming into the role of coach needs to meet and talk to the key people he'll be working with. It's a no-brainer. Here, coach, we're going to put a blindfold on you. We'll bring you into the building. We're going to let you see Borgonzi and Brinker and Amy. But in terms of some of the key people that you're going to be working with who will determine whether you succeed or fail, no. We're not going to have you talk to them. That would give them too much power. It's just asinine thinking. And you guys in here and who are watching this later on here, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook or listening on Apple, Spotify, iHeart are too smart to listen to that nonsense. So when you hear it, let it come in one ear and out the other instead of debating it and engaging in it. It's just so stupid. So this audience is the most sophisticated Titans audience there is out there. Don't spend time on nonsense, stupid stuff. Cam was completely reasonable in his answer there. Completely reasonable for Cam to say what he did. He in no way suggested that he's the golden ticket for a guy to get the job. Ward is not a train wreck in front of the camera. Ward is perfectly fine in front of the camera. You need to look at some other guys in front of the camera. If you wanted to compare Ryan Tannehill, the second best quarterback in the history of the franchise in Tennessee, and Cam Ward's more interesting in front of the camera than Ryan Tannehill was. Now, don't go crazy. I'm not saying Cam Ward's a better quarterback. He's not. But he's more interesting to talk to. To call him a train wreck in front of the quarterback, in front of a camera, you don't know what a guy should be doing in front of the camera. Mark, I got my eye on you. You'll be suspended from this chat very quickly. My name is Paul Kuharsky. I write and do podcasts and everything at paulkuharsky.com. I've been covering the Titans since 1996 when they were the Houston Oilers on Fannin in Houston, Texas, where the mosquitoes were the size of my hand flying around training camp. You should subscribe to my site. It's $7.50 a month. It's the most different news and analysis that you'll find on this team. I recognize some of you. I don't recognize others of you. I had a great piece up today about the Titans speed program. I was very surprised to learn that a good share of the Titans, particularly skill position guys, are maintaining or increasing their speed over the course of the season. That surprises me. Guys get worn down during the season. It would make sense that they would lose a little bit of their speed. But John Shaw, who's part of the performance department that came in with the Brian Callahan regime, which has not been a great regime, and Chad Brinker had fingerprints on this department. Injuries have been better, and the speed has been better. They're not a fast team, but a guy like Chig Okonkwo has gained over a mile per hour since the beginning of the season, which I find really interesting. You could read about this in great detail at my site. You're not going to read it anywhere else, but there's an example. Drew Beatty has a film review up of all the offensive linemen and what's been going on with them. Braden Gall will have something up soon about all the people we should be watching in the first round of the college football playoffs who could be impactful people for the Titans in the draft. Mike Herndon, who's the best analytics guy in who writes about Nashville-related NFL things, will have a column up in the next 2 days. For $7.50 a month, the price of a beer, a cocktail, a cup of coffee, less than the price of that. You get all of this. I'll send you a text about when these podcasts are going live so you could come in and ask questions. It's a great value. And even if those things aren't of interest to you, support independent journalism on the Titans in Nashville. I'm not the only person there that'll ask a tough question, but I am the person who asks the most tough questions. I am the most aggressive reporter on this. I am the person that's unafraid to hit Mike McCoy over the head, to hit Chad Brinker, to hit Mike Borgonzi, to hit Burke Nihill, and to do it in a very strong and aggressive way. And that's worth $7.50 a month for you as you try to get this franchise to listen to you, to pay attention, to do things the right way, to put pressure on Amy Adams-Strunk. So I ask for your support. And I ask for you to go eat at Edley's Barbecue, the best restaurant in town. Fantastic portions of fantastic food. You don't wait long in line there. They serve you quickly, great meals, big, cold drinks, affordable. You should take somebody there on a business lunch. You should take your family there for dinner. And if you can't make it out. They've got their own app. Never mind DoorDash or Grubhub or any of those places, which we know attach a massive delivery fee at a rip-off price. Edley's got their own app. You punch in your zip code, it tells you if you're in good enough proximity. They've got 8 locations in and around Middle Tennessee. Odds are you are. They deliver it fast. The delivery fee is small, and you'll be eating Edley's at your house in no time. So download their app, support Edley's Barbecue. I'm proud to have them as a sponsor. Thank you for your attention to all of these important matters. And I'll put up a little endorsement. I have requested an end-of-season interview with Burke Nihill, so hopefully I'll have that for you right after the season's over. Content, no bull, great gift, PK subscriptions. Can Mr. Shaw help Hooker, Barton, and Key with speed? He can help them maintain the speed they have and gain a little bit, but he can't take slow guys and make them fast. He's not a miracle. He's very good at his job, but he can't make a miracle worker. Do I think candidates will be turned off by the whole 2-man Brinker-Borgonzi combo? This is not as big an issue as people make it out to be. He's going to know who his boss is and do it. And again, it's going to be one of a handful of jobs that are open in the NFL, moving into a new stadium, nice office, great city. You know, they're probably not getting the number one guy, you know, but there's no clear-cut number one guy. That's the other thing, you know. Ben Johnson was probably the guy you wanted last year. If the Titans were in the market, they probably wouldn't have gotten Ben Johnson. But who's the number one guy this year? I don't know. Is it Robert Saleh? Robert Saleh, I think, would take this job above anything except Miami. I don't think Miami's coming open. Now, if Pittsburgh opens, he would take Pittsburgh above this. If Baltimore opens, he would take Baltimore above this. If Green Bay opens, he would take Green Bay above this. But if only the expected jobs open, I'm pretty sure he wants this job. Now, that doesn't matter if they don't want him. That article was super interesting, Heath says, about the speed article. Thank you. Mark, who's going on suspension after this, says Ward doesn't know how to speak English. I mean, you think that locker room is full of Shakespearean students? Have you listened to this team? How long have you been following this team? I mean, of all people, I'm the one that gives guys shit for something like this. You have to expect a certain level. I mean, you're not getting guys who talk like they went to Oxford. If that's what you're looking for, you need to go find a different sport, and it's probably not a major sport in the United States of America. And Trey reminds me for you to hit like, rate, review, subscribe, do all that stuff on whatever you're listening to. You know what the appropriate things are wherever you are. The CRA says, I like Borgonzi a lot. He is our only hope. Please keep Burke away. I don't want to hear we did this whole extensive search. If we just get Mike's boy Nagy or Brinker's boy McCarthy, they'll have to answer for that if that is what they do. Burke claims to not be super involved in these things, to not have fingerprints on it. We will see. We should have taken the draft cap when we could have to build this team. Ward is not worth the pick. You don't know yet if Ward is worth the pick. This thing where you have to immediately know is really annoying. Really, really annoying. And he's out of the conversation. What else do I have here? I had a couple other things we wanted to listen to. Jaylen Harrell has a sack and a half and a couple quarterback hits in the last couple games. Jaylen Harrell would not be playing He would not be getting any significant snaps on defense if Femi Oladejo had been healthy, if the Titans hadn't traded Draymond Jones. There just wouldn't be room for him. Is he going to be an NFL player? Well, I don't know. But if he can finish with 3 good games here, is he on the depth chart for the next coach going into next season with a chance to be, say, the 4th pass rusher, with a chance to compete for that spot, which is not nothing. And then when you consider injuries, all of that, he is. I talked to him today.
Exactly right. We traded Dre away, so that opened up some opportunity. And obviously, what, Femi unfortunately going down, that opened up some more opportunities. So I just been, trying to take advantage of my opportunities that have been placed in front of me.
I think that opens things up for you, obviously, the next 3 games, and kind of creates more of an impression for the next coach, the next staff.
Exactly. In this business, you know what I'm saying? Like you said, it's going to be a turnover next year. So we all, each and every Sunday, it's an interview. So like you said, just putting the best thing on tape for the next coaching staff and just continue to get better, progress day in and day out.
Give you potential to kind of have an optimistic feeling going forward, as bad as the season's been?
Yeah, I just take it day by day, focus on things I control, and like I said, just, gelling with my teammates, so we just go out there every Sunday and put our best product on the field.
You have to like that there are a couple guys emerging, doing something with a little bit of playing time that they never would have gotten before. That's how things should be going for this team. That's how Cam Ward is how things should be going for this team, playing better. We expected more wins, but he's gradually getting better. First passer rating over 100, back-to-back games with 2 touchdowns. Is it incremental? Yes. Is it anything to throw a parade over? Absolutely not. But, I said, beginning of the year, going to judge the season on Cam Ward and how what his learning curve looks like. His learning curve is on the upswing now. If he could finish with 3 games where he plays a lot more like he's played in the last 2 games and a lot less like he played in his shit games, that'll be cause for encouragement. And it's fine to have him be on the upswing. Then he's got to go away like Batman went away before he became Batman, and get trained intensely in the mechanics that are not good, and come back and work with his new coordinator, quarterback coach, once he's allowed back to work with them, and do some more of that. And then, bury himself in the new offense, and incremental gains turn into more big, fruitful stuff when he can really lock in and focus on the important stuff. I went 1-3 last weekend, 18, 15, and 1 over the season. I'm taking Seattle tonight at home, giving 1.5. I'm taking the Bucs to bounce back. I think Todd Bowles, that's a job that could open and should open. Todd Bowles is not a good enough coach for that team. He's not a coach that could take a team to a Super Bowl. And Tampa Bay, I think they were banged up to hell, and they had a very tough schedule. And then their schedule got to a point where things eased up, and they go and blow a big lead against a team like Atlanta. Todd Bowles, let him have it in his monotone way, but at least he dropped some F-bombs. If that job opens, that is a good job, I think. I think they churn talent there. I think Scott Light is a good GM. That job would shoot definitely above the Titans job. I'll take the Bucs, giving 3 at Carolina. I don't believe in Carolina at all. Nice improvement, but that's not a particularly good football team. I'll take the 49ers, giving 6 at the Colts. Very impressed by what I saw from the 49ers, given some of their injury-related deficiencies. But the Colts aren't doing anything with the 44-year-old quarterback. They're done. The 49ers are not. And I'll give points there. And that's going to be 3-0 and get me back to a good percentage. Bet the farm. Do not bet the farm. Bet responsibly. Don't be an idiot or anything like that. Certainly take mine with a grain of salt. Let's see what kind of questions we have remaining here. It's also really helpful that the run game has started to produce at a decent level. Obviously, they need to be a balanced offense, and they need a better running back than Tony Pollard to be a balanced offense. Makes things a lot easier on a quarterback, obviously. Shula, McCarthy, Weaver, or Sala. I like Sala, and I like Kubiak. Those would be my first two. If the Bengals fire Taylor, is the Bengals opening better than the Titans just because of the offensive personnel? Maybe. The thing is, the Bengals are notoriously cheap, and they just don't do things the right way. I think, there was just something in the news. Your coaching staff works double time in the off season. They serve as scouts. You could find some advantages in that, but it's not a real organization in that regard. With such a small scouting staff, they didn't clean off their damn seats for their fans when they're covered with ice and snow. I mean, even the Titans know to do that in the rare instance that they would have that. And the league lets them off the hook somehow, says, they cleaned up the aisles and stuff. That's not what the policy says. The policy says you clean those up. And what's the reason Cincinnati doesn't do that? Do it because they're too cheap to hire people to come in and do it. They're the only team in the league that doesn't have an indoor practice facility. I mean, those things, I think, make it less than attractive. I also would be surprised if they fired Taylor. I mean, Marvin Lewis was there forever and ever. I think they only fired Taylor if Burrow gives them a signal that he wants them to fire Taylor. And they've won with Taylor. They made a stupid move that I think was prompted by ownership in firing their defensive coordinator, Anarumo, who is now on head coaching lists for having done good work in Indianapolis. They didn't need to fire their defensive coordinator. They needed to get defensive players. They missed the boat on that. Restrepo has not looked good this week. I would not envision him playing. Your continued fascination with him continues to baffle me. I would root for Bryce Oliver to be back, a better player, but we'll see. Restrepo looks slower than he is at practice this week based on what I've seen, which is film of other people paying attention to Restrepo as I pay attention to things that actually matter. I watched practice on the open part of practice I watched on Wednesday. I did not watch it on Thursday. You hear different things about Burke Nihill's involvement. The CRA saying it appeared Burke was involved in Cali and ran to a degree, a big reason why he should be far away from this. Look, you can only involve so many people in this. I've campaigned for it not to be a committee. I think it should be, at worst, Borgonzi first among equals running this thing. Ideally, Borgonzi lead, Brinker second, and just the two of them. I think that's the best you could hope for. Then bring it to Amy when you've got it down to two and let her feel like she's doing something as you really guide her. But if Amy's going to have these people being, what's the word that they use? Being granted, being emboldened as her spokespeople, give them more then. If empowered, if she wants to empower these people, then empower them to make important football decisions. Don't empower them to lead a search that winds up with her giving her blessing for them to hire a soft patsy coach, which, is the impression that we have in terms of what she wants. Is nobody strong-willed in that position. You need a strong-willed person. Well, if you like Kubiak as a coordinator, then you're going to watch him coordinate for Seattle. I mean, the Titans aren't getting somebody else's coordinator to coordinate here. These stories get so exaggerated. It's true that Wesley Woodyard, Breakthrough, asks, is it true Wesley Woodyard and I almost got into a fight in the locker room one time? We screamed at each other. Darren Bates and I screamed at each other. Reggie Roby and I screamed at each other. Yeah, I get into arguments with guys sometimes. Almost getting into a fight is ridiculous. A guy to get in a fight with me in his locker room would be the dumbest human being on earth. Yeah, it would cost him so much money. It would be ridiculous. Teron Davenport's been telling that story lately. I think Jim Schwartz will get an interview. I think Arthur Smith will get an interview. I don't know. Jim Schwartz is produced, like Matt Burke is a Jim Schwartz product, and he's a defensive coordinator on the rise. But Jim is, past 65, I think now, and older guys are not the direction this thing is generally heading around the league. So I'd be surprised if he got it. And he's not connected here beyond Amy. He doesn't know. He doesn't know the son-in-law. He might know a few of the longtime scouts, but he doesn't know many people. Not the way that Art knows people. How many players? CRA asks, how many players make the Titans a fast team? Spears, DK, Chig, Ridley are fast. Offensive-wise, we just stink because speed seems to be there. Yeah, I don't think they're a fast enough team. First off, Ridley's been on the bench and hurt for a long time. DK has a certain kind of speed, but the speed needs to come with a quickness. And so, DK certainly as a returner has a way of evading people, but I don't know as a receiver if he's an evader. Spears needs to get the ball in space in order to be fast. He's not fast into the line of scrimmage, getting through the line of scrimmage. So there are limitations on some of this speed. The Titans aren't a fast team. Cody Barton is not fast at a position where you need to be fast. Amani Hooker is not fast. Xavier Woods is really not fast. So there are two guys at a position where you need speed who don't bring speed. Winston can upgrade that for you once he's healthy and there, and you think he's a guy that's going to be a starter next year and going forward. The corners on the field right now are not particularly fast. So it's not a fast defense with the guys who play in space. They need a speed upgrade. This speed program that I wrote about that I'm encouraging you to go read is definitely a good thing. But, if you start with faster guys in it, that would definitely benefit the whole deal. And they need to be a faster team for sure. The top wide receiver that they draft needs to be a fast guy. Defensively, these additions, the bendy edge they needs to be a fast guy. The corners need to be fast. They need to add a lot of speed. I've added at the bottom here of the chat bar, the article about how they're losing games but gaining some speed during the season. I encourage you to please go read it. I think some information that you would appreciate and be interested in. I appreciate you guys coming. I hope you'll spread the word here. Retweet this right now so people will go maybe listen to it while they're watching the game, and I'll tweet it out tomorrow with all of the links or tonight. I'm doing Robbie and Rex Road tomorrow, the whole show. Give you a break from Rex Road, who's got family business to deal with, so I'll be there with Robbie. We will talk a lot of Titans. We will talk about the first round of the college football playoffs. I hope you will resume your Paul Kuharsky fix there. Eat at Edley's Barbecue. Sign up for paulkuharsky.com. Over under on the number of wide receiver screens that Bo calls on third and long. 2.5. Give me the over. Hey, I appreciate you. Thanks very much for being here. I hope your weekend comes fast and that it's a good one. I'll see some of you at the game, after which I will do one of these fine podcasts for you from the press box. If you're a member, you'll get a text telling you what time I'm started. Hint, hint. Cheers, everybody.